If you've reflected back on your relationship and thought to yourself, this is not who I am, this episode is going to help you understand why you feel so capable and driven in other areas of life, but when it comes to your relationship, you feel like you're settling and completely not like yourself. Hello, and welcome back to the episode. Today, we are talking about a profound contradiction that you feel like you are living in. So on one hand, you have built something externally that you're proud of. The career, the home, the reputation. You feel really competent at work. And that really signals one story about who you are. But your private life, your romantic life, tells a different story. So it's not just that you know on some level that this relationship is unhealthy or your partner is narcissistic. It's that staying and continuing to try to change him feels like proof of something that you can't quite articulate or escape. So today we're going to bring all of that into the light and talk about it. It's my intention from this episode that you really understand why you keep holding on even though you know better, what's really stopping you from leaving, and it's not the surface level thing that you think, and the shift that you actually need to break this cycle of staying with somebody that you know is not for you or even at your level. And be sure to stick around to the end of the episode where I will pull an oracle card. This offers you a message that you can use this week to stay more present and conscious in your healing. So let's take a deep breath and begin. It is so common for me to meet women on my free intro sessions and work with them as clients who are completely badass on the outside. To everybody else, externally, they have the career, they have the home, they're taking really cool vacations, they have a thriving social life, really good friends. They typically are very loyal, they are warm, they're actually the person that their friends turn to and depend on. So on the outside, to everyone else, and to them in some ways, they have their shit together. But there is this internal discomfort, and more than discomfort, it's like a I'm unable to actually sit with this dissonance of then coming home to a man who maybe doesn't have a job or is perpetually losing his job, who really discounts all of her emotions, who refuses to engage in a relationship in a mutual way, who doesn't take on any of the housework, who isn't really contributing to the house or to her emotionally in any sort of real way. And in many cases, this man is also verbally, emotionally, and sometimes physically abusive. And yet she's staying. She's staying with this person, despite the laundry list of reasons that he's not contributing or he's not good for her or he's actually hurtful to her. So she's in this profound frustration at herself of why is this happening? Why am I choosing this? And I'm assuming you clicked on this episode because you are feeling something similar. And when you are living one way externally and living another way privately, the first thing that happens is that you feel like a fraud, right? You feel like a fraud in your own life. You can go to work and you can be confident and competent and stand tall and people come to you for the answers and you feel in control and worthy. And then you come home and you're immediately walking on eggshells, which then turns into full-blown fighting that you can't get out of. And you just feel like you can't do anything right. There's nothing that you can say to make the fighting stop or to prevent the fighting. There's nothing that you can get him to do to actually make the change that he says that he wants to make. And you feel like you're failing. And because you're not used to feeling like you're failing, because you've succeeded in every other area of your life, and that's a really uncomfortable place to be, what do you find yourself doing? Overcompensating. So working harder at work, trying to take on more projects to prove that you're competent. But maybe you're taking on so many projects now on top of the super energy leak that you have at home because of all of the ways that you are worrying and trying to fix the relationship, that maybe you're actually starting to drop the balls at work. And if your energy isn't being directed towards work and overcompensating at work, maybe you're trying to double down in getting your partner to change. You've heard him say that he wants to change. You've heard him say that I have this problem. you were right, I'm sorry, right? When you come back after there's been some sort of rupture in the relationship, when you come back into that moment where everything's going to be good again, where he's promising the change, you're hearing him say it and you're like, okay, I'll help you get there. So maybe he has a drinking problem or a drug problem, and you are researching rehabs or researching therapists. Maybe he has really recognized that he's codependent and is using that language. So you're sending him all of these books on codependency. Maybe he knows he needs a job, and that's been a part of your frustration and fights. So you're scouring LinkedIn in between your meetings, forwarding him articles or job openings. And you just find yourself really consumed, really taking on more and more and more to try harder to feel successful. And it just actually keeps making you feel worse because it's not working. It's really starting to threaten that, like, who you thought you are. When we're in cognitive dissonance, that's when we are thinking one thing about ourselves, but our external situation is presenting a confronting reality. It's too much for us to make sense of. So we start to actually orient our thinking around justifying his behavior or justifying the relationship to confirm our own internal knowing, right? What I think about myself of I'm a successful, driven, capable woman that should be translating in this relationship, yet the relationship is showing me that anything I do is not working. We're going to try harder. We're going to try harder to make that thing work so we can try to make those two things come into alignment. Try to make that make sense to our internal selves so that we can confirm the belief that we are successful and driven. That's why his promises feel so intoxicating, why that hope can feel so intoxicating, because it gives you the hope that, again, this thing is going to finally make sense. And it's going to make sense then why I'm continuing to choose to share a bed, share a house, share a life with this person. Another thing that can happen when you are confronted with this external reality not matching your private life is a lot of anger at yourself. Because you are so analytical and so smart, you have done all the research, right? I am sure on some level you've had a conversation with a friend or a colleague or somebody that's like sort of in your inner circle that you can kind of trust about the narcissistic cycle. I bet you could name every manipulation tactic that your partner has used. And I bet you've even said out loud, like, he doesn't actually want to change. Yet you find yourself still wanting to help him change and feeling sorry for him and allowing him to live rent-free in the house that you own while he gets back on his feet, right? It's still believing these promises. So there's anger because you're like, God, I understand these things. I can see, one part of me can see what is happening, but another part of me cannot let go. That part of me cannot just say, you're full of shit. I'm done with this. What do I need to do to get out of this relationship? And it starts this internal battle with yourself in your parts. And when we are internally battling, whether it's with our parts or with our external not meeting our private life, shame is of course going to follow that, because shame is this really silent killer in these situations, because it's insidious and it's that judgmental voice in the back of your head that's like, you're doing everything. You are holding down the house. You own the home. You pay the bills. You're managing the lifestyle. You are doing the grocery shopping. You're doing the meal planning. You're doing the cleaning. You're doing the laundry. You know that you're carrying the entire relationship. You know you're carrying your entire life, including his entire life. So you're in a partnership, quote unquote, on the outside, right? You technically have the title of with a person, he's my partner, he's my husband, if you're married, but you feel really alone. Like you feel like a single person operating, even though you're in a relationship. And I remember feeling that so clearly, like with my ex. Before him, I already had the tendency to do things on my own. I was a very independent person financially. I owned the home. I paid the bills. I managed the house. I meal planned. I grocery shopped. I cooked. I handled the crises. I was trying to find him a therapist. I I was managing my life and I was managing his life. And I just kept having these like realizations of I am holding all of the financial and all of the logistical weight and all of the emotional weight in this relationship. He's refusing to show up and he's treating me like shit. Yet I can't not be in this relationship. And mindfuck is the best word because, again, you know this on one level, but there's another part of you that just can't let go. And I've talked to women who schedule these intro sessions who are just like, I don't know how I ended up here. Women like me don't let this happen to them. They don't end up in relationships with narcissistic people where they're being manipulated and gaslit and oftentimes abused. That's other women. That's not me. And so that adds another layer of shame onto, wow, how did I end up here? And why am I staying here? So of course, when you are feeling this shame, when you are feeling angry at yourself, when you're feeling like a fraud, and you are just wanting something to make sense, you're just wanting something to work, of course, what you're doing is trying to focus all of your attention on getting him and the relationship to change. In your head, there's an equation of if I try harder, then he will change, then the relationship will feel better, and then I will feel confident and successful and aligned in my own self. The problem with that is that the variable on making you feel aligned and like yourself is him. And we don't have control over changing other people. So you are focusing on him in order to help yourself feel more aligned and like yourself. But you know that he has no desire to change. So it's like you're continuing to pour all of your energy into a strainer. And the energy is just going in and coming right out. It's going in and coming right out. It feels like you can never actually make progress or make something work because you're putting your energy into a fucking strainer. You're giving away your control and you're exhausting yourself trying to get him to change because it feels really uncomfortable to direct that energy inward to you and start to understand and process through what it is that keeps you settling for him. What is it that keeps you taking on 99% of things in this relationship? What is it that gets you to continue to believe his promises or continue to settle for this boy? I had a woman that I talked to recently who she's like, I'm with a child. He is a boy. He is not a man. And when she said that, that even resonated for me because I was like, yeah, I also felt like the mother in my relationship with my narcissistic ex. So what is it about you and your tendency and your patterns that keeps you choosing that? And how can you find some understanding or clarity around why you're going back or why you're continuing to be with somebody who you're also scared of on some level? Like you've seen his rage, you have seen these ways that he has really treated you less than a human. And yet there's like a erasure that happens when he comes back with the promise of change. And I say this with so much love because I have been there. I have gone back to the person who has scared me. I have, the morning after the fight where I locked myself in the spare bedroom because I was too afraid to come out into shared spaces. The morning after that, I gave him a kiss as we were making coffee. None of it made sense. None of it made sense in my head, but I found myself continuing to turn towards him, to focus on him. So I know how fucking hard it is to come to that place of, I need to focus on me. And what you need when you're starting to redirect that energy back to yourself, you need a whole shit ton of nervous system regulation because you have been in one consistent pattern of focusing on him, trying to get him to change, and that then making you feel better. And so your brain has clocked that as this is the familiar thing. This is the safe thing that we've been doing. Whenever we start to change a pattern or we start to challenge a role right? The role of rescuer that you've had with this person. Your body is going to fight that to the death because our bodies don't like change. Our minds can be much more efficient using the grooved pathway of focusing on him. That's less uncomfortable because it's not going to confront you with new emotions that you don't necessarily know how to be with. So your body's going to fight it. And I see this happen so clearly when I meet with women for these intro sessions because they're on this session to talk about what they're struggling with and how my program can help them. And when we get to the part of how my program can help, I sometimes can actually see that part come forward in them that's like, nah, we're fine. We're fine. Because whenever we are confronted with a chance to change something that's familiar, it's going to feel uncomfortable. And it's going to put your nervous system into like I don't feel safe doing this. I don't want to do this, frankly. So we have to be able to tend to your nervous system to be able to shift your patterns, which is why nervous system regulation and really a nervous system nurturing, like a rebuilding, a orientation, a recalibration. There's a lot of words that work here, but a recalibration of your nervous system is such a fundamental part of my program because otherwise you're staying in the analytical mind, you're staying in your old patterns. Like there's just not a way around that. We have to show our body that it's safe for change, that we're safe to navigate all of these new feelings around, oh, if I'm not that, then who am I? There will likely be guilt and grief and maybe a whole other stew of emotions that get to come forward when you are actually processing what that relationship is or was. So if there's one thing that you take away from what I'm saying right now, it's that it makes total sense why you are focusing on him and trying to like ingest all of this information about narcissism and codependency and abuse and trauma bonding in order to try to get him to change his behavior so that you feel better. That makes total sense. In order to change that change is not going to come from a book or a podcast. That change is going to come from you regulating your nervous system so that you can shift from that pattern into a new pattern. And it's possible. It's so possible when you have the right support, when you have the right guidance. This doesn't have to take years. I know a lot of times women, when they're thinking about doing this work, they're like, I don't have time. I don't have time to shift these patterns. I don't have time to feel the grief. I don't have time to like break up with him and then find somebody new. And if you've thought that, I want you to just think about how much time are you putting into him? How many hours are you researching for him? How many hours are you second guessing what you're saying or trying to apologize? How many hours are you in confusion? Confusion is the number one identifier of if you're in a healthy relationship or an unhealthy relationship. If you are confused most of the time, that's not good. And that's not what you deserve. You deserve to be in a healthy relationship where there are moments of confusion, but the majority of the time you guys are clear and on the same page and actually working together. And I would bet that when you think about that, it's an exorbitant amount of time because I know I spent an exorbitant amount of time focusing on him and trying to intake all this information to get him to change. So it's not actually more time that you need. You're just redirecting your energy. And when you redirect it back to yourself, that is going to give you the results. So I know you like efficiency. I know you like to do things that feel successful. This is going to feel successful when you can trust yourself, again, with the right guidance, with the right support, which is why I hold space the way that I do for my clients. You will be able to save yourself time and energy and money. Jesus, you'll save so much money. So there's a way through this. So I encourage you, if this resonates and you're at that place, please, please, please go to the show notes, schedule an intro session. This is a time where you and I will meet on Zoom. I will get a better understanding of your situation, and I'm going to show you how I can help. I'm going to show you the way out. So please schedule that intro session. Okay. And to end, as always, we have an oracle card. So I'm going to shuffle the deck here and just ask, what is the message? Oh no, it fell out. Rest. Rest is the message that came out. Let me find the message in the book. Rest calls you here. Spiritual rest, bodily rest, both. You cannot continue to run, push, lift, and serve. You cannot continue to live from the bottom of your exhale. You must rest. Find it. Create the space to allow yourself to unplug. Quiet the mind, soften the body. Connect to the divine spirit that offers you unconditional love and respite from all of your mind-made worries. Put to rest the expectations of others, the shoulds, the guilt, the imposter. Sink into yourself. Exhale. Relax. Release. Rest, rest, rest. That is a good one. Put to rest all of the energy that you're putting to others, especially to others who are not putting energy back into you. Take that message with you. And until I see you in that intro session or I see you in the next episode, please remember that you are not alone.